Welcome back to All About Winning Daily Fantasy Sports. My name is Ty Patton. In this video, I'm going to break down tonight's Monday Night Football Showdown contest between the New England Patriots and the New York Jets. I researched the 44 Showdown contests up to and including last night's Dallas Cowboys Philadelphia Eagles contest and came up with some really interesting numbers that I wanted to share with you before we dove into this game. The average winning score is 135.51 points, with the captain's position averaging a score of 44.72 points. Hence the focus and importance of getting the captain's position right, no matter what contest you're in, GPP, head-to-head, double up. Putting an emphasis on getting that right is key to doing well in these contests. Remember, the captain spot gets 1.5 times the points that's scored. It also costs you 1.5 times the salary. To get to that 44-point average, you need a raw score of about 29 and a half points to get there. I also broke down the captain's position in these slates and just to see where they, if there was any commonalities. The underdog running back appeared in the captain's position more than any other positions. It's been in 11 of the 44 for 25%. If you consider that for the night, tonight's underdog running back is Le'Veon Bell. The favorite quarterback was right behind the underdog running back. It has appeared in the captain's position 10 times for 22.7% of the time. Tonight, obviously, is Tom Brady. The favored wide receivers have been in 6 of the winning lineups for 13.6%. Tonight, that would be Edelman and Dorsett. And the underdog wide receivers have also been in 6 winning lineups in the captain's position for 13.6%. Tonight would be Anderson and Crowder from the Jets. Favorite running back has appeared in the captain's spot 3 times. Tonight, for 7%, tonight would be Sony Michel and James White. The favorite defensive special team has been in captain spot 3 times. For 7%, tonight would be the Patriots. Patriots have actually been 2 of those 3. The underdog running back has been the captain in 2 of those lineups for 5% tonight. Sam Darnold. The underdog kicker has also been in 2 of those contests tonight. Is the Jets kicker. Again, that's 5%. And the underdog tight end has been in the winning captain spot 1 time for 2%. Tonight's underdog tight end is Griffin from the Jets. So there you have it. It's interesting to consider the wide receiver, and it really makes sense on Draftkings being PPR that if you combine wide receiver, whether it's favored or underdog, and they both have been in the winning lineup 6 times, but if you combine them, the wide receiver has been in the captain's position 27.2% of the time. So it's the wide receivers and the favorite quarterbacks have the over 50% of the winning lineups so far. The Patriots have been involved in 5 showdown slates in 2019, and they've had an average score of 120. Those contests have had an average score of 121.74. Brady was the captain in 3 of those in the winning lineup, and their defense was the captain in the other 2. The last 11 games that Brady has faced the New York Jets, dating back to 2014, he has only thrown for 300 yards twice, and once was this year, and the other time was in New England. So Brady is Brady. He's also thrown 24 touchdowns in those 12 games, and he's won 10 of the 11 games overall. The last loss was in 2015, where they lost 26-20 in New York. This leads me to what I always talk about with the showdown slate, and that is the game script. Last night I was dead on the game script. I liked Ezekiel Elliott in the captain spot. I knew that for Dallas to win, he needed to be a big part of the game. I also knew Dallas's weakness was the tight end position, and I even threw around a couple lineups where I had both tight ends from Philadelphia, Goddard and Ertz, and I also liked the tight ends from Dallas. And actually, I was able to cash because I had Zeke in the captain. I had Jarwin for Dallas, the backup tight end, and I also had Goddard and Ertz. Well, Ertz didn't get there. He basically laid an egg with the points that he scored, but with Zeke in the captain spot, I was able to cash. And that's getting back to that. That's why getting the captain's position right is really important. Okay, now we need to get back to tonight's game. I'm leaning towards trying to be different by using the running backs from New England and fading Brady and Edelman and the New England defense. Number one, you need a lot for the defensive special teams to hit value. They're very expensive on this slate at 7,200. Now, granted, they have scored a lot of points, and they actually, I wanted to look here real quick. They actually have a really nice floor. They're averaging, let's see here. Oh, yeah, they're averaging 20.7 fantasy points per game. Their lowest defensive game so far was in their first game against the Jets, where they only scored 11 points. I feel like they're going to be very popular because what that does is allows you to fit a lot of the chalky New England players in your lineup. They could very well go off. One thing that I was thinking about, if you had them in the captain's spot, why would you need Brady? I mean, if they're going to go off, does Brady really need to throw the ball around? I mean, if they're getting defensive touchdowns, wouldn't that mean that you want to use the running backs with the defense in the captain spot? Me personally, I am not going to use the defense in the captain spot, and I'm probably not going to use them in any of the lineups that I build. If they go off, then I live to play another day. But I feel like they're going to be very chalky. Edelman is also going to be very chalky, and for good reason. I mean, one thing to make sure of, though, if you're going to put Edelman in your lineup, he is questionable. Managed to play through his lingering chest the last few weeks, so it's likely he'll suit up for Monday night's game despite questionable designation. Josh Gordon's out, and Phil Dorsett is questionable as well, so it could be a huge night for Edelman. And he's probably going to be very chalky in that captain spot. If I take the stand of using the Patriot running backs, this allows me to use the Jets passing game to come back. I think it allows me to be different. I want to get away from the Edelman New England defensive special teams. So I thought if I fade them and they don't go off, then I've probably eliminated at least half the field. If I don't have Edelman or Brady in the captain spot, I truly believe I've eliminated half the field. Could Edelman go off? Certainly, he's averaging over 17 points per game. But you got to make a stand somewhere, and that's what I'm doing tonight. So for me, I wanted to start out building, and I also wanted to mention I also have a reason that I like Michelle. As I mentioned, Brady's only thrown for over 300 yards twice against the Jets since 2014 in 11 games. Last year in New York, Michelle scored 25 fantasy points. He had 133 yards on 21 carries, one touchdown, two receptions for 12 yards. And that's really, I mean, that's not the 29, but that almost gets you there on what the average winning captain spot has been. Now, I will tell you that the underdog running back or the favored running back has only been in the winning lineup 3 times so far out of 44 contests, but those running backs were also part of the winning team. And I'll get to mentioning the underdog running back here in a minute. But Brady in that game, Brady in that same game with Michelle, he also scored 19 points. He was 20 of 31 with 2 touchdowns and 283 yards. So there is you can have a correlation with Michelle and Brady, but I want to be different, and I'm going to go with Sony Michelle in the running back captain spot. I'm also going to put James White in there, and I'm going to put Bolden. To me, this covers every aspect of their running game, unless Belichick does something like throws Damian Harris in there and vultures a touchdown somewhere. I feel like this build right here, without putting anything else in it, is very contrarian. 3 running backs, no passing game, but really James White does catch a lot of passes. So, and he wasn't in the first game against the Jets. So, if there's any passing, uh, you know, it could possibly be going to White with Michelle maybe pounding it in, and Bolden's been known to vulture some touchdowns as well. So if New England is able to build a lead with these players and punch it in, inside the red zone using the running backs, and I got all 3, and if Michelle is the one that's leading the way, then to catch back up or to try to stay in the game, the scenario for me is to have Sam Darnold. I feel like Le'Veon Bell he's going to catch a lot of passes out of the backfield. I know Belichick will try to take him away, but he's not going to be able to take everybody away. I mean, they're going to have Gilmore matched up against Robbie Anderson. I think Anderson will have a difficult night, and but I could see Bell having a good game, getting the checkdowns, and that also that leaves me 9,500. And a wide receiver that I like a lot in this game is Crowder. Crowder is getting a tremendous amount of targets, and he's only averaging 11.1 fantasy points per game. But if you look at his game log with Darnold, in week 1 he had 17 targets, and then last week with Dallas he had nine. So in 2 games with Darnold, he's averaging 13 targets, and with Gilmore taking Anderson away, I could see a lot of stuff opening up underneath for Crowder and Le'Veon Bell. So that's a 3-and-3 stack. I really like that. I think it's different. If you play that and it wins, you will be splitting with me. Because I will be putting this in a few different contests. But that's one of the stands that I'm taking. Another stand, as I mentioned, if you just want to make sure that you have access to Brady, I don't particularly like Brady in the captain spot, even though he has, in the 5 games that they've been on the Showdown slate, he's been in the winning lineup in the captain spot 3 of the 5. But I'm going to go with, if I wanted to go with Michelle and bring it back with Brady and hope that this covers all the scoring, either Brady throwing it. I think there's going to be some different targets. Watch out for Matthew Slater. He's only $400, and he could be really sneaky tonight. Ben Watson, I believe, is going to. Let's read the notes on Ben Watson. Is he active tonight? Ryan Izzo's concussed. Matt Lacoste knee on track to miss Monday night game. Watson and Eric Tomlinson could head to Patriots Week 7 tight end corps. So there you go. And that leaves me 6,600. Now again, I'm gonna fade. It's risky. I'm gonna fade Edelman, but I'm gonna bring it back. I'm gonna put Sam Darnold, Crowder, Bell, and another target, Griffin. So Brady comes out and lights it up and gets them down there, and Michelle punches the ball in. Could be a good day with this lineup. And if the Jets are behind, you see Darnold thrown underneath the Crowder, also thrown to his tight end. And Le'Veon Bell is not game script dependent. He's going to be on the field regardless. Um, he's one of the top running backs as far as touches and snap percentages, well over 90%. So that's another interesting lineup. I really like that one, and it makes sense. And that's what it only leaves 100 on the table, which I was going to mention in the other lineup that I showed you. There was 2,500 on the table now. That's okay in Showdown. Actually, it's a good thing. And I've seen something where the average winning lineup is leaving a little over $1,000 on the table, so not spending the full 50,000 on the lineup. As I mentioned, I feel like the Edelman, which would be this, I feel like this build right here will be very chalky, and it's going to be Edelman in the flex. He's getting targeted a lot. Everybody knows that Gordon's out, Dorsett's hurt. They don't have a tight end. So who's going to get all the targets? And then a lot of people are going to probably bring it back with Brady. We're going to try to force Sam Darnold in there with a target. Don't think get Bell in there. But you could, but then you'd only have 1,700. Yes, you could go down here and get the tight end, which will leave you 2,000, and you could take a flyer and hope that Matthew Slater gets in there as another target for Brady, or you'd probably take Griffin out, and it basically limits you to that build, depending. I mean, unless you want to take a flyer on Ty Montgomery and Griffin, that's a possibility. It leaves $200. I feel that this build, you could score a lot of points with Edelman and Brady. I mean, he could dink and dunk all the way down the field multiple times and just build up. I mean, in PPR, Edelman is ideal. I have him in my season long fantasy teams for that reason. I mean, he's got a nice floor. He's going to get 10 targets. But I feel like this is putting all my eggs in one basket. What if they dink and dunk down the field and Michelle punches the ball in, or they get set up a couple times with pass interference in the end zone, and now you're on the one? You could hope that Brady would run a quarterback sneak. He doesn't do that much. He has had last game I watched, I believe he ran one in, but that's not what you can really depend on. So I also take all the players that I like and I use an optimizer. And I usually on Showdowns I usually have it run about 50 different lineups for me. And just so I can see the different randomizations, I usually set the maximums. I'd pick out like 6 or 7 different captain positions that I like, and I use the research that I had. I know I want to consider the wide receivers in the captain spot. I want to consider the favorite quarterback in the captain spot and a couple other positions. And I might set the exposure to 10, 15%, or at the most 20% on all those, with at least 10% for each one. So I get some exposure to them. And then I just go through and I pretty much leave all the other players in there. There's a couple that I take out, and I'm not willing to take a zero just to have a $200 player in there. I mentioned Matthew Slater because the Patriots are known to use players. You'll be watching the game and be like, who in the world is that? But so I don't think he's super risky. Will he get in the game? Well, if Dorsett injury if plays and his injury causes him to leave the game, you will be seeing Matthew Slater in this game. So that's why I mentioned him at the $400. But anyhow, I run the optimizer, and I was going to share with you the first lineup that it spit out with the settings that I set for it, and talk about it a little bit. it had in the captain spot, Le'Veon Bell, underdog running back, and we'll get back to this. I'm going to let you know something about that. Then it had Matthew Slater in there. And obviously, the optimizer is trying to put a player that might be viable so you can afford some more expensive players, which it did. Then it had Sam Darnold, Tom Brady. Double quarterback's been popular this year as well. James White, he's pretty popular. And Sony Michel. Spent all the money. And it's a really interesting build. So I went back and I looked at the underdog running back, and it has been in the winning captain spot the most out of any position through 25%. But the the underdog running back that's been in the captain spot has won 8 of those 11 games. Could the Jets beat the Patriots? Anything could happen. And if you believe that's going to happen, feel free to use that. I don't really see if the Jets are winning and Bell's in the captain spot, putting together a lot of points. I really don't see where Sony Michel is going to be used a lot. You could see Brady and James White and perhaps Slater in there, but I just don't see a really good correlation with this particular lineup. If you're going with the game script of you believe that the Jets are somehow going to win, and they're only a 9.5 point underdog at home, it's significant. And in the first game, the Patriots did not. Darnold wasn't playing. I believe that was the kid's Simeon or Falk. I'm not sure which one it was. It was in week 3. But this is what the optimizer spit out. Very first one, I like to show you how that works for me. I don't MME. I don't have anything against anybody that does. And if I could, I would. It just makes sense. I've had a couple weeks that I had the actual player pool needed to have the optimal lineup and actually beat the winning Millie Maker lineup on Draftkings. And had I been able to play all those entries, one week it generated 108 lineups, and another it generated, I think it was 96. And that winning lineup was in each one of those. But this is Showdown, and it's different. And I do it just so I can just see some different randomized things and I go through and I pick out the ones I like. I play a few different contests and just go with it. Also wanted to mention, if you pay real close attention to the game, DraftKings has the flash draft, and it runs for every quarter. Like, you'll pick players in the first quarter for the second quarter, and then in the second quarter for the third quarter. And what it is every few minutes they have a draft, and you're going to pick 5 players, but it's going to give you 3 players at a time. And you got 15 seconds to pick one. And some of them have multipliers. So if you're really following along with the game and you know what's going on, it's something to just keep you interested in the game. They have $1, $5, $20, $50, and up to $100. I believe, and I've actually won some money doing that. If you're just going to check in and out on the game, I don't really recommend it. You got to be following and knowing what's going on, and pay real close attention to the multipliers. It's just something else that you can do during the game. So hopefully you guys get a little bit of value from this research and put it together and build some winning lineups. I'll be back tomorrow to recap week 7, and then we'll start getting ready for week 8. I appreciate your time. If you'd hit that like button, subscribe button, and hit that notification bell so you get notified when my next video posts, I'd really appreciate it. Feel free to drop any comments or opinions below. My name is Ty Patton. This is all about winning daily fantasy sports, and I'll see you tomorrow.